ready.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Buff in the Rough. In part one of our conversation with North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission Officer Branden Jones, we're going to talk about access to hunting game lands, bigfoot sightings, common safety incidents while out hunting, and more. Join me in welcoming Branden to the program. Well, hey Branden, how are you?
Doing good. Hope you are.
I am. I really appreciate you taking time out today to spend with us. And can't wait to hear what you have to say, because I'm going to pepper you with all kinds of questions.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll definitely try to answer the best I can. But, yeah, no, like I said, I just appreciate you again reaching out, and glad to definitely be a part of it, and definitely look forward to kind of, like I say, covering a little bit of everything.
Well, I tell you what, I've got a long list of questions, so I'm just going to hit the ground running. But kind of before we get started, could you just maybe, for the folks listening, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my name is Branden Jones. So I work with the Wildlife Resources Commission. So in the law enforcement division. So basically, I am a wildlife officer or a game warden. So I'm originally from Polk County. Grew up in a little town called Saluda. Kind of looking at this, it's kind of where Coon Dog Day was. Kind of.
Oh yeah.
There and going to that, and so for me, kind of growing up, coon hunting was definitely what I grew up doing, and so it's kind of funny how it all, kind of looking back, growing up in the area, that has Coon Dog Day and everything else, and of course, as time goes over, it's definitely not the same, but so grew up there, Polk County, went to Polk County High School. After high school, went to Brevard College for a year, then came back and went to Blue Ridge Community College and actually finished up an associate's in horticulture at Blue Ridge. And then I came right into the Wildlife Commission and started there when I was 22. So I always kind of knew who the game warden was. Always heard about him. You always knew who he was, but never really seen him around.
Yep.
Grew up hunting, for many, many years. And back in high school, I was able to meet the one there we had. And the one at the time was, Toby Jenkins there in Polk County. And I was like, what's this wildlife thing? What do y'all do? What is it? Mm-hmm. And because I had no idea that I would definitely go into law enforcement or even that. But I was like, it's a state position. They patrol hunting and fishing. And it's like, man, that's what I like to do. And it's like, man, that's a no-brainer. So got lucky enough to get in. And so I started with the Wildlife Commission in 2010. Went to the wildlife school in Salemburg. And then my first duty station was in Currituck County. So when I was first told, where are you going, I had to go back and look at a map because I didn't even know where Currituck was. So that's the Outer Banks. So it was, I think, 7 hours and 440 miles from Polk County.
Oh, my goodness.
So went out there and so stayed there for a couple of years. And so really it was kind of like a paid vacation in a way. Didn't really know about it at first, but, did everything from, working night deer hunting under Cape Hatteras Lighthouse to,
wow,
working boating in the ocean and everything else. So it went pretty good. Stayed there for a couple of years. And then 2012 came back to Lincoln County, where I worked Lincoln, Catawba, and Gaston County, but lived over in Vail there in Lincoln County and for about a year. And then my wife's family, she grew up in Stanley County, but they had a farm in Davison County, which is Denton. And Davison County came open September of 2012. So I put in for a transfer and luckily enough got it and been there ever since. So I currently now live in Davison County. Like I said, married, no kids, been married for a little over 12 years and have a small little farm, live in a little dead-end road. But so that was my journey there. I worked Rowan and Davison up to about 2017. And Rowan and Davison County. Like I said, Salisbury, they had kind of walker days, kind of tied back to the coon hunting stuff. So, and throughout the entire time, kind of been hunting all over the state. And then 2017 took a sergeant's position down in Montgomery, Stanley, and Anson County. So I worked down there for 3 years up to 2020. And then 2020, I'd put in for a captain's position. It's more of administrative support services out of the Raleigh office. And so it close right to next to NC State. And so I've been up here since 2020. And so my role now is more of includes, the recruitment, the hiring, overseeing the basic academy, the training, the in-service training, emergency management, telecommunications, equipment, internal affairs, public information, and then whatever else. So I kind of call it as kind of the grease to the wheel a little bit.
I hear you.
So just help support the officers in the field and try to support them in every way that we can to make sure that, ultimately, we're just serving, the citizens and the public the best we can.
Well, Branden, it sounds like you've been busy. And
never slows down.
And a couple of things that sounds interesting. That Blue Ridge Community College has a beautiful campus up there. That's a beautiful spot.
So,
and
then nice, definitely in the mountains, and looks like they're continuing to grow and have a great program there from all aspects of things.
And I think a lot of people forget how long North Carolina is. I remember my first trip to the Outer Banks, road tripping it, and it was driving from western part of North Carolina, and you'd hit Raleigh, and you'd be like, oh God, it's got to be close now. Yeah, it's still a haul, and so it's a really long state. But thank you again for being on here, and I wanted to really start out by sharing some of the feedback that I've gotten from hunters, especially small game hunters, over the past year or so. And it seems like a lot of people are challenged with finding hunting spots. Most of the folks that I talk to have hounds, and so you're going to need some space to run these hounds, whether it be coon hunting or rabbit hunting or even squirrel hunting. So there's game lands in North Carolina, and I'm assuming there's game lands like this in other states too, that are available for folks to use. But I think there's a hesitancy for some people. They're scared they're going to do something wrong or not have the right license or permits. So could you just give us an overview of kind of what game lands are and how they work, and like how people can find them and use them correctly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's a good thing that you bring up. So, kind of growing up, we had the Green River Gamelands, next to where we grew up, and actually, my parents' place actually backs up to it, and so we hunted Gamelands growing up, and that's where I really kind of understood or started knowing what they were and what they were about. So I had a little bit of information coming in, but yes, a point that you do bring up is there is a lot of people that, one, are not very familiar with the Gamelands. One, they may not know what it is. One, how to access it. I don't know what the laws are there. And then probably one of the biggest perceptions that we have of Gamelands from the public that I've seen and heard, I'm not going to Gamelands. I don't want to get shot. And that is furthest from the truth. So I've been working a little over 13 years, and knock on wood, as of today, me personally have not investigated a hunting incident where someone has shot someone else on Gamelands.
Wow.
Now, that's not to say that it hasn't happened during that time on other Gamelands, but about every area I worked other than up, toward Lincoln County, there's always been Gamelands. So Gamelands is kind of diamond in the rough, to be honest with you. There are certain Gamelands you go to, we'll kind of get into it, but as an overall, so here in North Carolina, we have a little over 2 million acres of Gamelands in the entire state. So that's a lot of land. So used to so looking at Gamelands, so of course you have to have a hunting license. So of course anybody that's 16 years or older, has to have a hunting license. They used to have a Gamelands license, but basically, comprehensive, or the sportsman covers that. So as long as you have that, you can hunt on the Gamelands. So Probably the easiest way to kind of do a little research, or kind of the biggest thing is before you go hunt game lands, is one, you need to figure out what game lands you want to go hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And, so how to kind of figure that out is, one, you want to look at the county that you're hunting. The easiest way probably is to go to ncwildlife.org, or you can just go Google, NC Wildlife. So we have a pretty user-friendly website, and basically you can go there, go where to hunt, and we have an interactive game lands map. And you can go on to that interactive game lands map, and you can basically search by county, and it'll pull up all the game lands within that county. And then from there, you can zoom in, and then you can click on different blocks, and it'll basically give you all the regulations for that game lands. So it'll, tell you, if it's a 7-day per week area or a 4-day per week area. We'll talk about that here in a second. But it definitely gives you, it really breaks it down really easy, and it breaks it down as far as, what the name of the game lands it is.
Okay.
So looking at the interactive maps, probably the easiest way, and especially if you're at home, want to do a little bit. I mean, you can do a lot of scouting. And it actually shows you kind of like where the property boundaries are, and they're really, really close. And it's a really good, reference point. So I would use that, but in addition, I would look at a regulation digest. So again, this can be online, or honestly, I'm kind of an old school paper in my finger,
Me
on
too.
my fingertips. I want to be able to hold it and see it and read it. So you can get a regulation digest. They're free anywhere that sells hunting license, or you can request one from the NC Wildlife for free. But the regulation digest comes out. The new one starts August 1st and goes through July 31st of the following year. So, like for right now, the new one for August just came out. And so basically that would be the 2023 to 2024 Regulations Digest.
Okay.
So looking at the interactive map, but basically if you look at that Regulations Digest, there is a game lands portion in that Regulation Digest. And so this gives you all the information that you would need or would need to know about before you go hunting. So again, us as wildlife officers, when we go and we come in contact with the public, basically I carried one of these in my truck, and I still keep one in my bag now, but this is what the public is kind of, expected to know. So as long as you have this and you reference this, that's what we're going off of. I mean, we're not going to go and pull out some magic book or anything else and say, well, this is not in here.
Right.
I mean, if somebody were to call me about a regulation digest or a regulation question, I'm coming straight to this Regulation Digest because that's what, one, me as a hunter, I go by, and then me, as a wildlife officer, kind of go by to answer questions. In a nutshell, that's kind of the gist of kind of the game lands, kind of how to get started.
So you find that you can find tons of information on the website. You can actually pick up one of the regulation books at, I don't know, probably a lot of folks use like Walmart or the Hunt Supply stores.
A lot of times they just got them on the counter sitting in the back, and you can go by and just pick one up.
And so that'll get you kind of where you think you could hunt the kind of game that you're looking to hunt. You do need your license. And is there any other advice you could give? Like there's maybe some unwritten rules, like hunting etiquette. I roll up there and I've got a pack of beagles, and it's in the middle of deer season. What are the rules there?
Yeah, no, 100%. So, and just to kind of add one more thing on the game lands, kind of getting started. So, you definitely just need to look at which game lands you're going to, because different game lands will have different regulations. So, one of the biggest things probably that if you're new to game lands that you need to know is some areas are like 3 days per week area, some are 4 day per week areas, some are 6, some are 7 day per week areas. And then some are permit only areas. So it seems like a lot, but it's very, very simple. So like a 7 day per week area means that you can, hunt on game lands from Monday through Sunday. So we've now allowed to be able to hunt on select game lands on Sundays.
Okay.
And that's come in, and I mean, there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, they don't believe on hunting on Sunday, and that's absolutely no problem. But then again, if somebody works Monday through Friday they were really limited with hunting on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to, expand the opportunity, for sportsmen to be able to have an opportunity to go hunting. So that's a little bit of a new law, or something that's new, that you can hunt on Sunday on Sun Gamelands.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a 4-day per week area, it's just kind of limited to like Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So then you're probably thinking, well, how in the world, if I want to go hunt, say Green River Gamelands, how in the world do I know what day per week that is? So again, that Regulations Digest, it has individual gamelands listed. So you can go back there, and this is the same information that's going to be on the website. Right. But you can go to, say, Green River Gamelands, and they'll have like a 6 beside it. That means it's a 6-day per week area. So Monday through Saturday, I can hunt that area. And it also shows you the counties that it's in. And then additionally, underneath that, it'll kind of go in and give you the regulations specific to that, to that Gamelands. So all the information's in your Regulation Digest. Mm-hmm. Everything is going to be online. But again, that Regulation Digest will get you started. So,
okay.
So I just wanted to kind of touch base on that before, because that's something we have a lot of people ask questions about, and I think that just kind of come back to being confident in knowing, where you are, and confident, to find the information that you need.
Mm-hmm. All good information.
So, yeah.
So the etiquette part. So the etiquette part, yeah. So the kind of the unwritten rules.
So yeah, so probably some of the biggest things we see. It's really kind of, again, some it's just kind of using, common courtesy, kind of treat others as if you want, how you would want to be treated. But one thing that we do see is you'll come to some areas of Gamelands, like parking areas and stuff, where it has high traffic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the perception of people come, and I'm not going to hunt over there. Everybody and their brother's over there. Mm-hmm. So if you see a vehicle, especially if it's early in the morning or somebody's not there, it's a chance that you take, going in, and someone else is there, or you may already have a predetermined spot. But, if you're going in, for example, the opening day of deer season, or going in deer hunting one morning, try to go in and, try to get set up maybe, before daylight, be still, and, just don't be walking around right there at prime shooting time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that we see. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But just common courtesy, walking around at like prime shooting time, right there, right after sunrise. Sure. Next thing you know, you got somebody walking up to you, and it's kind of ruined your whole hunt. Mm-hmm. So just kind of being respectful of that. So not even, not knowing where someone else is. And a lot of times people walk in before dark, or before daylight, and if someone else is already set up, they may flash a light or, whistle at them, and you'll know, hey, I need to go on down the ridge or holler or whatever else it may be. So, mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is just, that's one thing that we see, and then also too, if somebody's already, and that's one thing with Gamelands, you could go in and you could scout, and say you can put up a tree stand, you can put up a ladder stand. It just can't be permanently affixed to the tree. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go in and put a lock on, or put a lock on, or you just can't basically build a stand into a tree, nails, screws, whatever else. Mm-hmm. But if you go in and hang a climber, then you may, if you want to put you can put a lock on it, whatever else. But just notice somebody's there sitting in your stand. When you come in, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, again, I've been working a little over 13 years, and I have not had that happen. I've had people, say, hey, I think somebody's been hunting in here, but it's Gamelands. So that's just one thing you've got to consider. But just, but again, that's where it kind of goes. Do your homework. Try to set your stand up before you go in and hunt, just like you would any other, piece of property. Mm-hmm. Go in, scout, see it in the daytime, and then that way when you go in, you got the best chance of having a successful hunt. So really, kind of the same things, I guess, as if it were private property, but just kind of just being respectful of other people as well. Just know that even though you may not see anyone else parked there, just be mindful.
I got you. It's the old golden rule. Just
yep.
Yeah. That's good advice, and I appreciate you sharing that. So I did want to ask you a question like this is kind of a fun question. My dad loves watching TV, anything that has to do with Bigfoot, and so does the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission have an official stance on whether they believe Bigfoot exists in North Carolina or not, or maybe this is just a personal belief that you have? You ever seen Bigfoot or any?
No, it's something funny to kind of bring up. So definitely I've had plenty of pictures sent to me. I worked in Uwaris, and the Uwaris, we've seen people out in the middle of the night, and they're hunting for Bigfoot or they're looking for him or whatever else. And but as far as the Wildlife Commission, we don't have a position on Bigfoot. And so just kind of me being from the wildlife officer side of things, or I guess the game warden side of things, is, hey, if Bigfoot exists, he is really good at avoiding cameras and cars. So we have gotten some pictures on them, but we don't have an official stance on it. We don't.
I tell you, one of my good coon hunting buddies told me a while back. He said, "Sam, if I ever hear that there's definitive proof of Bigfoot existing, I will never go hunting again with you."
That's right. So we've all been in the woods at different times of night and heard different things, and possibly seen different things, and so even in getting around working. But me personally, I haven't seen anything resembling that, and I haven't had any confirmation myself from trail camera pictures or anything else like that sent over. But it's I think it's always fun to kind of talk to people and kind of get their stance on it and see what it is. And so especially kind of like being in New Orleans, there was always a heavy presence. I mean, we've had news stories come down and want to do interviews on Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, it's a thing. I mean, we have the Bigfoot Festival, I think, in Marion, kind of toward the mountains of North Carolina. Yeah, they just had it maybe a couple months ago. Yeah, it's a big deal. But I had to ask you.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Well, I want to get back to maybe a more serious topic, and of course that's going to be safety. When you're hunting out there, you're taking things with you. Guns and archery and all kinds of things that can hurt you or hurt others. But what are some of the most common hunting accidents that you've come across?
Yeah, no, this is a great point. I definitely appreciate you asking, because, like I said, when we go hunting, that's definitely a hobby for us. We enjoy that. We do that on our time off. And most of the people that we go with are not strangers. We go with people that, that we love, or family, friends, and, just for the fellowship. And so with that, we definitely want to make sure that, everyone's able to go home at the end of the day. So again, I've kind of worked all over the state, from the coast to a little bit of the mountains, and then, kind of in the Piedmont area. And some of the hunting incidents, the most common that we've seen, probably the number one is going to be tree stand falls. I mean, every year across the state, it really kind of goes up and down, but, especially, people deer hunting, but people falling out of, whether it be ladder stands, it'd be lock-ons, it'd be box stands. So my recommendation is, one, if you're hunting, if your feet leave the ground, you need to have some type of safety harness on. You need to make sure you do practice and make sure you know how it works, prior. So, set that thing up at home, kind of practice with someone else, climb 2 or 3 foot up to where, your feet's off the ground, kind of roll out of your stand, or just see how it feels. A lot of times people, they may not put it on correctly, or they don't put it on all the way, and they end up, when something does happen and, it's, 5 o'clock in the morning, they fall out, they either panic or, something happens. So, but the tree stand falls, and there's a lot of people that, if they do survive it, they're banged up for the rest of their life. And then some, we've absolutely have, woken up and, found people that have passed away, from a fatal, hunting incident, for basically falling out of a tree. And that's just hard. That's hard on, one, the family, and hard, that's the worst news we have is, go talk to a family member and let them know, that their loved one, basically passed away, or their best friend passed away. I guess the biggest thing is it could have been preventable in most cases. anything can happen, and when it's our time to go, it's our time to go. But we kind of call them more of hunting incidents. With incident, it could have been prevented.
I hear you.
And so tree stand falls, that's the biggest thing. So you leave the ground, make sure you're attached some way to that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, and kind of looking at the game land stuff, and of course, whether on private property or not, because even though it's private, that doesn't mean, that you're there by yourself.
Right.
There shouldn't be anybody else there, but just making sure, I'll be honest with you, any type of hunting, whether it be bow hunting or anything, if you're going to and from, even if you're legally not required to wear blaze orange, well, I would wear blaze orange.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want somebody to see me, especially if I'm coming and going or whatever else. And then also, of course, during certain times, small game season and, muzzleloader and rifle season, you have to wear it, even if you're in the stand, but just make sure you wear your blaze orange.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth, it just blows my mind. Because that comes back to, one, people identifying you as something else, or the bushes shake or whatever else. And,
oh, yeah.
So we have had, a couple instances where, especially turkey season is bad, on that. You'll have, people walking around or slipping around trying to stalk turkeys and calling and everything else. And more of someone shooting someone else is more common during that time of turkey season. And also, people that run, deer or bear with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They'll end up, the game's coming past real quick, and there's a lot of people around, people getting shot with buckshot or whatever else. So that's fairly common, but probably I'll put tree stand falls number one.
Okay.
And number two is self-inflicted either gunshots or shooting themselves, whether it be with a bow and arrow, crossbow. You would be really amazed by how much that happens. And I don't think we really think about it.
I am amazed by that.
It's still, just kind of talking about it a little bit, it's just hard to believe, but I think we get so comfortable and we get so complacent,
mm-hmm.
with, hey, this is my deer rifle I've been hunting with for 15 years,
mm-hmm.
I load it the same way, I do this every time, but it's just, whether someone, accidentally shoots themselves while they're at the truck loading it, or while they're walking in, while they're, and most of this is kind of talking about deer hunting, but,
mm-hmm.
If they get up in the stand, or if, or coming down the stand, or, turkey hunting, they sit down and they go to stand up and, the gun goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, small game, 22s, so really shotguns, 22s, rifles. We've had some crossbow incidents where, people have accidentally shot themselves with a crossbow.
Oh.
So those, I'll just be honest with you, self-inflicted, wounds they're never good. So
mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure, just don't be complacent, hey, make sure you always keep your muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Dove season's coming up for us, and
mm-hmm.
How many times will we go around and people will be leaning up on their gunshot, or their shotgun barrel.
Yep.
They'll have a shotgun leaning on the butt stock and shotgun barrels, resting on their foot.
Yep.
Those are the little things that we just don't think about, and we just, and next thing you know, something happens. So those are the two biggest things that I'll just like everybody, just say. Personally, I've got to kind of remind myself when I'm doing that. Hey,
sure.
Hey, if I'm climbing in the climber, hey, make sure I put something on, a safety harness.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, same thing. If I'm loading my gun or whatever else, just being overly cautious about that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two biggest ones that.
Well, I think that's fascinating. I think that's really interesting information. And I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so I'm going to go back to kind of what people send you pictures of. So maybe some people send you pictures thinking it's Bigfoot, but this comes up every year. It's the game camera picture. I swear there's mountain lions in North Carolina. I mean, are there any mountain lions in North Carolina that you know of? Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough, and remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. Please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com. We'll pick up next time for part 2 of our interview with Branden Jones, and we'll answer many questions like this one. Are there any mountain lions in North Carolina? what to do if you're approached by a wildlife officer. We'll talk about trends in hunting licenses and what can the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission, or whatever that resource is in your particular state, what can they do for your hunting club, and a lot more.